wasallam called Friday the best day on which the sun rises. It is the day Adam alayhi salam was created, the day he entered paradise, and the day the final hour will come. But among the many acts of worship that fill this blessed day, one stands out as a source of light, protection, and guidance: the recitation of Surah Al-Kahf. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, a light will shine for him between this Friday and the next. A light that bridges the days. A light that follows you into the week, surrounding your steps, calming your heart, and protecting your faith. This light is not visible to the eyes, but the soul feels it. It is the clarity that enters your heart when confusion clouds your mind. It is the calm that wraps around you when anxiety tries to take over. It is the strength to choose faith when the world calls you to distraction. Surah Al-Kahf carries stories of courage, patience, and divine protection. Stories that teach how to stay firm when faith is tested, and how to see light when everything seems dark. Sister, the gift of Friday is not just in the day itself. It's in the opportunity to pause, reflect, and realign your heart with Allah's guidance. Every week, Jumu'ah arrives like a soft reset for the soul, a reminder that you can always return, no matter how far you've drifted. Reciting Surah Al-Kahf on this day is more than a ritual. It's a renewal of light, a conversation with Allah through His words, and a shield that stays with you until the next Friday comes. So before the rush of your day begins, open the Qur'an. Let the words of Surah Al-Kahf touch your heart. Let its light travel with you through your week, your challenges, and your moments of doubt. Because between two Fridays, Allah places a path of light. And whoever walks that path never walks alone. Surah Al-Kahf is not just a chapter to be read. It is a chapter to be lived. Revealed in Mecca, during a time when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions were surrounded by hardship and disbelief, this surah came as a message of resilience and hope. It reminded the believers that faith is not proven in comfort but in struggle. Every story inside it was revealed to strengthen hearts, protect belief, and guide the soul through trials that repeat in every generation. When you open Surah Al-Kahf, you are not reading history. You are reading guidance that still speaks to your life today. The surah holds 4 main stories, each one a reflection of the tests we all face. The story of the people of the cave teaches the trial of faith. A group of young believers chose isolation over compromise, trusting Allah when the world rejected them. Their courage reminds us that protection is not always in crowds sometimes. It is in solitude with sincerity. The second story of the man with the 2 gardens is the trial of wealth. It warns against arrogance and forgetting the giver while enjoying the gift. His gardens were beautiful, but his heart was blind to gratitude, and everything he owned turned to dust. The third story, the story of Musa and Khidr, carries the trial of knowledge. It teaches patience that Allah's wisdom unfolds in ways our minds cannot see. What feels like loss may be protection. What seems like delay may be divine timing. And the final story, the journey of Dhul-Qarnayn, represents the trial of power. It shows how leadership is a trust, not a privilege. That real strength is mercy guided by justice. Together, these stories create a map of faith. They show the believer how to navigate through 4 of life's greatest tests: belief, wealth, knowledge, and power. They warn us of what weakens faith and teach us how to protect it. Every story in Surah Al-Kahf carries the same message. Faith will always be tested, but Allah never leaves the one who holds firm. When you recite this surah on Friday, You are not just reading verses. You are renewing your shield. You are reminding your soul that no matter how loud the world becomes, Allah's words will always be your calm. Sister, Surah Al-Kahf is protection because it teaches perspective. It grounds you when life feels unstable. It silences fear when faith feels small. Each time you recite it, your heart absorbs the lessons hidden within it: patience in confusion, humility in success, gratitude in blessing, and strength in solitude. The surah doesn't just protect from trials outside, it purifies the space within. It keeps the believer awake, aware, and aligned with the truth. That is why it is recited every Friday, because protection is not built once. It is renewed again and again, week after week, light upon light. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ promised that whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on Friday will be surrounded by light until the next Friday. This light is not something the eyes can see, but the heart can feel. It is a light that softens the soul, guides the heart, and shields the believer from the darkness of confusion. It follows you quietly through your week, your moments of stress, your struggles with temptation, reminding you that faith is never alone. This light is protection, guidance, and peace woven together by Allah's mercy. In the Qur'an, light always represents clarity. It separates truth from falsehood, guidance from distraction. When you read Surah Al-Kahf, that light enters your life in unseen ways. It may come as calm in the middle of anxiety. It may appear as clarity when you're lost in decisions. It may show as contentment when the world pulls you toward chaos. This is the promise of Allah, that remembrance brings light and neglect brings darkness. The one who remembers Allah through His words walks through life with illumination, even when the world seems dim. Sister, every Friday, you are given the chance to renew that light. Just as the sun rises again after night, Allah allows your heart to be cleansed again after the noise of the week. Reciting Surah Al-Kahf is not only about earning reward. It is about restoring your rhythm with revelation. It is about choosing guidance over distraction. When you open the Qur'an on Friday morning, you are not just reading verses. You are stepping into a sanctuary of light that extends into your coming days. In a world full of screens, opinions, and constant movement, this surah becomes your quiet lantern. It steadies your heart and reminds you that guidance is not something to chase, it is something to return to. The light promised between 2 Fridays is the light of consistency, the light of remembrance, and the light of faith that grows stronger every time you recite. Hold on to it. Protect it. Because that light is your shield, and it will carry you safely through every trial that the week brings. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, whoever memorizes the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from the Dajjal. In another narration, he mentioned the last 10 verses. Both are shields, both are light. These verses are not only meant to be recited, they are meant to be lived reminders that protection begins with knowledge and reflection. The Dajjal is not just a figure from the end of time. He represents a pattern, deception, illusion, falsehood appearing as truth. And in every generation, that deception takes new forms. Today, the world is full of illusions that look beautiful but empty the soul. Truth is mixed with lies. Good is disguised as evil, and evil as freedom. The trials that the Prophet ﷺ warned about are not distant anymore. They exist in our screens, in our choices, in the constant pull to forget who we are. The Dajjal's greatest weapon is confusion. He blinds hearts before he blinds eyes. And the verses of Surah Al-Kahf are light that restore clarity. They teach the believer to see beyond appearance, to recognize truth through the lens of faith. The first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf open with a reminder of revelation that the Qur'an itself is the ultimate protection. It begins with praise of Allah, who has made the message clear and perfect, free from distortion. It reminds us that this world is temporary, a test, and that our return is to the one who never deceives. These words build a spiritual filter within the heart. When you carry them, deception cannot easily reach you. You learn to question what the world calls success and see what Allah calls truth. You begin to recognize that not everything bright carries light. Some shine only to distract. Sister, this protection is not magic. It is awareness. Every time you recite Surah Al-Kahf, you strengthen your heart against confusion. You polish the lens through which you see the world. You remind yourself that the power to deceive belongs only to creation, not to the Creator. The believer who lives by these verses walks with discernment, able to tell what is real from what is illusion, what brings peace from what brings chaos. When the Dajjal appears, he will promise heaven but lead to hell, and promise truth but spread lies. The Prophet ﷺ gave us Surah Al-Kahf as a shield, not only for that day, but for every day where falsehood tries to disguise itself as truth. In a time where confusion spreads faster than clarity, this surah becomes your anchor. It trains your soul to recognize what the eyes cannot see. It protects your belief from distortion and your heart from doubt. Sister, hold on to this light. Let the first and last verses of Surah Al-Kahf become part of your memory. Repeat them often, reflect on their meaning, and live by them. Because the world may grow darker before the end of time, but for the one who holds on to the Qur'an, especially this surah, Allah promises light that will never fade. Surah Al-Kahf is more than a chapter, it's a mirror. Every story inside it reflects something within us. Our fears, our desires, our tests, and our faith. These stories were not revealed as entertainment. They were revealed as guidance. Each one teaches how to stay firm when the world shakes, how to trust Allah when nothing makes sense, and how to hold on to faith when everything tries to pull it away. The 4 stories within this surah, the people of the cave, the man with the 2 gardens, Musa and Khidr, and Dhul-Qarnayn, form a complete map of human trials. Faith, wealth, knowledge, and power, the 4 tests every heart faces in different ways. 1. The people of the cave. Faith over fear. The story begins with a group of young believers who lived in a time when truth was rejected and faith was mocked. They were few in number, but strong in belief. They refused to bow to falsehood, even if it meant leaving everything behind. To protect their faith, they left their city and sought refuge in a cave. Allah in His mercy made them sleep for years, protecting them from harm and preserving their story as a lesson for generations. Sister, the people of the cave remind us that faith sometimes requires separation. In a world that normalizes disobedience and glorifies sin, protecting your heart may mean walking away. Their story teaches that solitude with Allah is safer than belonging to a crowd that forgets Him. Faith is not proven by numbers, it's proven by sincerity. When you recite these verses, remember, Allah never abandons those who abandon sin for His sake. 2. The man with the 2 gardens, gratitude over pride. The second story speaks of a wealthy man blessed with beautiful gardens, rivers flowing beneath, fruits abundant, shade unending. But his heart grew proud. He thought his wealth would never fade and forgot the one who gave it. When his companion reminded him to thank Allah, he mocked him. Soon Allah sent a test, and his gardens were destroyed overnight. Everything he trusted vanished, leaving him humbled and broken. This story warns us that wealth is not a sign of success. Gratitude is. In a world obsessed with possessions, this story whispers the truth. What you have can leave, but what you give remains. Wealth without humility becomes a burden. Gratitude transforms it into barakah. The believer remembers that blessings are not earned by effort alone, they are sustained by remembrance. 3. Musa and Khidr, patience over impulse. The third story tells of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and a mysterious man, Khidr, who was granted special knowledge by Allah. Musa sought to learn from him, but struggled to understand his actions, damaging a boat, killing a boy, repairing a wall for strangers. Each time Musa questioned, Khidr reminded him to be patient. In the end, every act carried hidden wisdom, mercy, disguised as hardship. Sister, this story is a reminder for every heart that wrestles with divine timing. We see delay as denial, but Allah sees the full picture. What feels unfair may be protection. What feels painful may be purification. The journey of Musa and Khidr teaches that not every difficulty is punishment. Some are preparation. When life doesn't make sense, this story whispers, trust the one who sees what you cannot. 4. Dhul-Qarnayn, power with justice. The final story tells of Dhul-Qarnayn, a righteous leader who traveled across lands spreading justice. He was strong, yet humble, powerful, yet fair. When people sought his help, he listened. When he built walls to protect them from harm, he did it without pride. He used his strength not for dominance, but for service. His story reminds us that leadership is not control, it's responsibility. True power is using what you have to benefit others and bring peace, not chaos. Sister, we all hold a form of power over our words, our time, our choices. The story of Dhul-Qarnayn teaches that power without mercy is destruction, but power guided by faith is protection. Whether you lead a family, a community, or just your own self, your influence is a trust from Allah. Use it with justice, and Allah will place light in your actions. Together, these 4 stories form the heart of Surah Al-Kahf. They are more than history. They are a manual for the believer's soul. They teach that faith will always be tested through loneliness, wealth, confusion, or authority. But those who remember Allah through these trials are never lost. Every story begins with a challenge and ends with mercy. And that is the essence of the Qur'an. Hardship may test you, but faith will always rescue you. Friday is not just the end of the week. For the believer, it is a beginning, a sacred pause between the noise of days, a moment of renewal. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ called it the best day on which the sun rises. It is the day Allah chose for creation and for resurrection, the day of gathering, forgiveness, and remembrance. Every Jumu'ah carries a special atmosphere, the kind that softens hearts and invites reflection. Within this day, Allah placed gifts that restore the soul. The Jumu'ah prayer, the recitation of Surah Al-Kahf, sending blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ, and a moment when every sincere dua is answered. Surah Al-Kahf belongs to this day for a reason. Friday reminds us of beginnings and endings. the creation of Adam alayhi salam and the promise of the final hour. Surah Al-Kahf connects both. Its stories speak of faith surviving confusion, truth surviving trials, and light surviving darkness, the same lessons we need before the end of time. Reciting it on Friday renews your connection to revelation. It reminds you that no matter how uncertain the world becomes, Allah's words remain timeless. It prepares your heart to face the week ahead with guidance, gratitude, and protection. Sister, reading Surah Al-Kahf on Jumu'ah is not just about reward, it is about rhythm. It brings order to your spiritual life. It becomes the believer's weekly reset, the day when your soul realigns with its purpose. You wash your heart with dhikr, your eyes with Qur'an, and your body with wudu. You enter Jumu'ah tired from the world and leave refreshed by remembrance. That is the blessing of this day. Allah gives you light so that you can walk through another week without losing your direction. When the Prophet ﷺ said that reciting Surah Al-Kahf brings light between two Fridays, he was teaching consistency. It's not about one grand act, but small acts repeated with sincerity. The believer who opens the Qur'an every Friday morning builds a bridge of light that connects her to the next. That light protects her thoughts, her emotions, and her heart. It keeps faith alive. Between the distractions of the week, Friday becomes more than a day. It becomes a rhythm of renewal, a reminder that Allah's mercy never runs out. It simply resets with every sunrise of Jumu'ah. Sister, Surah Al-Kahf is not just meant to be recited once in a while. It is meant to live in your week, to become part of your rhythm, like prayer, like dhikr, like breathing. The secret of its light is in consistency. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught that Allah loves deeds that are small but done regularly. That is how hearts stay alive. So if you want the light of Surah Al-Kahf to stay with you, make it a habit, not an occasion. Start with intention. Before you open the Qur'an on Friday, whisper quietly in your heart, Ya Allah, let this recitation bring me light and protect me from confusion. When intention leads, reward multiplies. If your schedule is busy, don't rush. Read a few pages in the morning and finish later in the day. The sunnah is to recite it anytime between Thursday night and Friday sunset, so there is room for ease. You can even listen while commuting, cooking, or walking. The goal is not speed, it's presence. The barakah is not in finishing quickly, it's in reflecting deeply. Make it an experience, not a task. Sit with calm, perform wudu, and open the Qur'an like you are meeting an old friend. Let every verse speak to you. Pause when something touches your heart. Write down reflections. Share a verse with your family. Let your children see that Friday feels different because the Qur'an is part of it. When a home echoes with Surah Al-Kahf every Friday, angels surround it with mercy and fill it with peace. If you struggle to stay consistent, start small. Read 10 verses each Friday. Then increase slowly. The same 10 verses that protect from Dajjal will also protect your heart from doubt and your home from restlessness. Over time, this surah will become your companion, something you look forward to each week, not something you check off your list. Let it become the sound that opens your morning, the peace that fills your noon, the calm that ends your day. Sister, remember, Allah never asks for perfection. He asks for sincerity. Even if you read one page with a tired heart, Allah records it with love. Even if you only listen while driving, He still counts it as remembrance. The light of Surah Al-Kahf doesn't depend on how fluent you are. It depends on how connected you are. And when this surah becomes part of your week, you'll notice the change. You'll feel lighter, clearer, and closer to Allah because His words will begin to live within you. Sister, when you recite Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, you are not only reading a chapter, you are reviving a connection. Every verse is a conversation between you and Allah, a reminder that faith is light, even when the world feels dark. This surah is more than protection. It is perspective. It teaches patience when life delays, humility when blessings increase, and trust when you cannot see what's ahead. It reminds you that Allah never leaves the believer without guidance. Even in confusion, His mercy remains near. Every Friday, this surah gives you the chance to start again. It wipes away the dust of the week, the worries, the doubts, the noise, and replaces them with peace. It reminds your heart that this world is temporary, that everything you lose or gain is part of a test, and that the real success is staying close to Allah through it all. When you finish reciting, close your Qur'an softly and take a moment to feel the calm that follows. That silence is not emptiness. It's the echo of remembrance, the peace of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just spoke to you through His words. Surah Al-Kahf is the believer's weekly anchor. It grounds you when the tides of life rise too high. It protects your vision when the world tries to blur right and wrong. It fills your home with light and your heart with hope. Every verse strengthens the bond between your soul and its creator. And when you make this surah a part of your Jumu'ah, your week no longer begins in chaos. It begins in clarity. So as another Friday arrives, welcome it with gratitude. Let the Qur'an be the first sound your heart hears. Let its verses cleanse the noise of your thoughts. Remember that the same Allah who protected the people of the cave, who blessed the man of humility, who taught Musa